welcome to tonight's Planning Committee of the 10th of April. The first item on the agenda, apologies for absence. Are there any apologies? Councillor Fern?
Yeah, apologies from Councillor Goldvin, and I'm substituting.
Councillor Joy?
Apologies from Councillor Lemass, and I'm substituting.
Thank you. And Councillor Brake?
Good evening. Apologies from Councillor Roger Barrett, and I'm substituting for him this evening.
Okay, thank you.
And sorry, Chairperson, we've also had an apology from Councillor Gilbourne.
Okay, thank you. Right, item 2, to approve the record of the meeting held on 13th of March 2024, taking note of the additional informative as laid out in the supplementary agenda. Is this approved? Thank you. We will now move on to item 3 on the agenda, urgent matters by reason of special circumstances. There aren't any late items which do not appear on the main agenda. Item 4, do any members have any disclosable pecuniary interests or other significant interests? Councillor Councillor Pearce.
Thank you, Chairperson. Item number 5, myself and my ward colleagues, Councillors Crozer and Sands, have submitted a representation to that application. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Etheridge.
Thank you. My standard submission that I sit on and attend a number of parish councils, but I do not take part in any of their planning meetings or discussions.
Right, thank you. Is there anyone else? Dave?
Thank you, Chairperson. Similar to Councillor Pearce, item 5, on the basis that I live very, very close to the application site, so to confirm to members I have had no involvement in the assessment or processing of this application.
Okay, thank you. For item 6 on the agenda, 2 Second Avenue, I've spoken to residents with regards to this application, and they have asked that I speak on their behalf as ward member. Is this agreed? Can I please ask that whilst officers are presenting to the committee that you do not use your mobile phones? We need to be making sure that we're listening to what is being put in front of us. So we move on to item 5 on the agenda. Lingley House, Elm Avenue, construction of a 2-storey detached 3-bedroom dwelling. As per the supplementary agenda, is it agreed that this item is deferred to enable consultation with Natural England? Right, for the next item, item 6, I'm speaking as ward member, so I now hand over to Councillor Jones.
Okay, well, thank you very much indeed for that. This is the first time I've chaired this committee since 2006, so bear with me, I might have forgotten what to do. I think it's already been agreed by the committee that we hear Councillor Stamp as ward member. Before that, one of the planning officers will be presenting the item, presumably.
Thank you, Vice Chair. So the application is located at 2 Second Avenue, which is in Gillingham. This is the site location and aerial shot. The site is within a residential area, with the majority of the properties either being semi-detached, detached and terraced further along the road. This slide just shows the front of the property and the off-street parking which is to be retained this side of the property. These shots just show the availability of on-street parking. This is looking up and down the road. We did consult our highways team on this, and it's deemed that due to the existing use of the property being C3 4-bedroom property, the change of use to the C2 residential care home, which would support 3 children and 2 members of staff, would not result in an additional parking demand. Therefore, we've deemed that the proposed use would be acceptable in highways terms. These are the existing floor plans of the residential property, and these are the proposed. There's no interior alterations. However, One of the bedrooms is proposed to be converted to an office due to the size it was as a bedroom. It was only 4.5 square metres, so that's now proposed as an office use. These are the existing and proposed elevations. There are no alterations to the existing property. Sorry, I've had to go back. In conclusion, we do deem that the use would not cause any detrimental impacts to the neighbouring properties due to the use only being proposed for 3 children and 2 members of staff, and therefore I have recommended that the application should be approved as set out in the report. And it is just noted that the 2 members of staff will be on a rotating shift pattern. As such, the comings and goings should be minimised as much as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that introduction. We now turn to Councillor Stamp as ward member, and you have 5 minutes, Councillor Stamp. I understand you can see the timer.
Yes, thank you.
If not, the clerk will guide. So that 5 minutes starts now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me speak on behalf of the residents as ward member. The view of the residents is as follows. 2nd Avenue is home to many young families, and they are concerned about the security arrangements being proposed by Kent Police. It is recommended that there are CCTV cameras. Residents feel that this will cause loss of privacy along with 24-hour care for the occupants, in which the carers are advised to wear body cameras and security alarms. The residents find this very concerning and feel that it is detrimental to their health, security and well-being of the surrounding residents of Glebe Road, Barnsdale Road and 2nd Avenue. The residents feel that there will be a significant loss of privacy, overlooking, noise, disturbance and antisocial behaviour. The residents in the community feel that they have not been consulted, and they feel that it has been done in an underhand way, which adds to the mistrust, stress and anxiety levels of the local residents, especially with the demographic of the local area being largely those at retirement age. The residents feel that the proposals will have a significant harmful effect on the character and appearance of the surrounding area and does not improve the livelihoods of the occupants of the surrounding areas. This does not result in a clear improvement of the local area. 2nd Avenue is an increasingly busy residential street which is being used more and more as a rat run. Cars are parked on both sides of the road, leaving just a single lane for vehicles, despite it being a 2-way street. The shortage of available on-street parking means there are very few passing places for vehicles travelling in opposite directions, which encourages vehicles to speed up and down the road. There is going to be a severe lack of parking for both staff, in which at busy times of the day there will be 4 staff members in total as they change shifts, and people visiting the property. The residents believe that this is in breach of H8 of the local Medway plan. The residents feel that the area is not suitable for such a proposal and it will have a largely detrimental impact on the local community. The road is already congested, and with a new housing development recently being built, this will make existing parking concerns worse. Furthermore, it states that there is off-road parking for 1 car. The residents believe that the off-road parking to the front of the property is a very small space and would be surprised if it is to Medway Council standards. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Stamp. Well within time. Is there any further officer comment on the moment, or shall we go straight to members? Yeah. So straight to members then. I'll try and see who is indicating. I've got Councillor Howcroft-Scott, followed by Councillor Etheridge and Councillor Cavendish. Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Howcroft-Scott.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Planning Committee, and also thank you, Ward Councillor. As Chair of Children's Committee, I am increasingly troubled and concerned about this cottage industry because square footage wise we're much cheaper than London boroughs, but it's not just London boroughs. You know, I have lived experience. I was a child in care, and these are vulnerable children who literally deserve our best. And certainly when Councillor Brown and Councillor Clark have been here, they've had antisocial behaviour issues in their community where there are these children care homes. And from a perspective of Medway, you know, since this has become a business, a cottage industry, fees have soared for councils. The business are making, the Guardian quoted, £300 million or more profits. Councils in the last year up and down the country are spending double they were on these mini care homes or mini children's homes than they were 6 years ago. And I have to say, children in care since the pandemic have grown. And I know you will be saying, well, what are these for planning concerns? The planning concerns for me is Ofsted come in and they close many of these ones that don't reach standard, but such is the business output for these places. They change their names to Brightside from Rainbow and reopen with the same staff and the same issues. And I think we need to stop this. Unless it's Medway children, children in care deserve and need the best care and education possible. And I know that from lived experience. You know, the bedroom that's really small, that size, you know, in the conditions, it's not mentioned that that needs to never be used as a bedroom, whether that's for a child in care or a young person in care or a member of staff. You know, I think we need to stipulate that because I'm telling you, this is for profit. People, you know, just treat children like parcels in this situation. And, you know, I think what the ward councillor says, you know, this is a senior citizens, an elderly community that, you know, are in the autumn of their years. They want to enjoy their time. They don't want to be dealing with antisocial behaviour. And, you know, are there really going to be 2 members of staff there at all times? And the cameras, you know, Big Brother 1994, whatever, 1984, you know, it is to protect the young people and the adults, but who else is being filmed? So I can't support this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Shall we take Councillor Etheridge and all the speakers that have indicated so far, and then I'll go back to officers. Thanks very much. Councillor Etheridge.
Thank you, and I fully support a number of the concerns raised by my colleague over there. If you look at page 35, it says, in response to the above objections, the agent has provided a response to the above objections summarised below. Parking concerns. Staff members will use public transport to access the property. The children will not have access to cars. The one space on the existing driveway to be used by the social worker, to which the frequency of visits has been reduced to 1 a month. Not quite sure how we're going to enforce that information put forward by the agent. Further down in terms of the officer's report, and I'm zooming down to here very quickly, in terms of the actual people living in the house, and then we're looking in principle, it says paragraph 8 of the MPPF supports strong, vibrant and healthy communities by ensuring that a sufficient number and range of homes can be provided to meet the needs of present and future generations. Once again, it's a rather an ambiguous statement because so many times we've stated very clearly that these present and future generations do not necessarily live within the area. And therefore, I think it's incumbent on us to start asking the question of how many is a sufficient number and range of homes for Medway children, and what's a sufficient number and range of homes for those external to the boundaries of Medway. And then, of course, we go on to the whole concept of itself in terms of who's going to stay there. We're looking at 3 children between the age of 3 and 17. Sorry, 11, looking at 3 children between the ages of 11 and 17. Unless we have a doles on them, deprivation of liberty, or they are in such a disabled state that they cannot leave the property, does this mean that they are subject to remaining in the property as prisoners within that home for the full 24/7? If they are allowed to venture out, does that mean one of the carers has to go with them? And more importantly, as already pointed out by my colleague opposite, that they're not from the area and they don't know the area. What are they doing wandering around in Gillingham and other parts of Medway on their own, not knowing either the dangers they may be facing as vulnerable young adults and, of course, knowing the area? So I too feel that I cannot support this in its current state. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Hammond-Deeshay.
Thank you very much, and I share the comments from my colleague on this side of the bench and opposite me. I think they're both well found and rightfully placed. My challenge to this application lies with the staffing and the ambiguity around how it operates. For example, there's no buffer in or around the transitioning of staff. There's no safeguards if somebody is off sick, whatever. It's only 2 in the morning or 8 to 8, and then night shift is 8 p.m. to 8 in the morning. There's no allowances for a buffer, which tends to happen. Also, the broad span of children that will cover between 11 and 17, anybody that's worked in CAMS will tell you a 16, 17-year-old is completely different to an 11-year-old, and their needs also need to be factored in. I'm mindful that this is a planning application, so I'll try and stick to the planning brief, but certainly the issues there around the CCTV and the fact that these are children that are coming from outer borough potentially, I feel at this stage it's not substantive enough and it's going to cause more disruption than anything else. My last point is to do with these applications that come in, there's no mention of recovery. The whole business model around these care homes does not support an individual young person ever requiring. It's based upon the here and the now. For instance, if this individual, this child needs 2 members of staff, well, guess what? They're always going to require 2 members of staff. They're never going to be taken off 2 members of staff because that will break the financial model that the care home is operating at. You see, so until I see a lot more detail on the bond to how they operate within the sphere of, say, a care home operating, also in terms of the views of the residents, I wholeheartedly share those views. I struggle to approve this one. Thank you.
Okay, well, I've seen another councillor indicate, I think after those 3 contributions, it would be useful to hear from officers and then take another batch. So perhaps I can turn to the officers now, and it would be useful to have some advice in their responses as to which are the planning issues and which are not, in your opinion, because if we are going to refuse the application, for instance, we would need to know what would stack up on appeal. So it would be useful to have some guidance when responding to those councillor comments, please. Thank you. Mr. Harris.
Chairman, I'll come back first of all, and then I'll pass to Amy to comment on 2 issues only. Members, I have the greatest respect for everything that I've heard, but as per the very clear advice you received from the legal officer, written advice you received from the legal officer not that long ago, and the training you received from my development manager, you need to have your planning hat on when you consider this application. So the concerns regarding the care, whether they're from within Medway or outside of Medway, we simply don't know. We can't say they're from out of Medway because we don't know that. The care aspects, they are not planning considerations. They are for the provider, which will be for Ofsted and their registration situation. The planning considerations here, now Amy will touch on CCTV and that issue regarding amenity. She will also talk about or reiterate the parking aspects. The other thing I would just add is that this is a family home at the moment. It's a 4-bedroom home. In that 4-bedroom home, you could have 2 adults and a minimum of 3 children in that home of, well, whatever age, could age from between 0 up to, and if we look at the average age of first-time buyers, that's 37. So there could be a lot of cars generated as a result of the existing use here. It could also go to a house in multiple occupation, so it could be occupied by 4 people who, 4 adults who are completely unrelated and all have cars. So I'm taking stealing Amy's thunder here. So the proposed use will have a lesser, but certainly no greater impact in terms of parking. But Amy will come back onto CCTV, but just really reiterating, members, please have your planning hat on here when you're considering this. I'm not diminishing the issues that have been raised by councillors, but they largely are not for this planning committee. Thank you. Amy.
Thank you, Dave and councillors. With regards to the CCTV, I have discussed with both the applicant and agent regarding this. They do have ring doorbells on both entrances, to the front entrance and to the rear. They have confirmed they do only look either to the front of the property or directly to the rear of the property, and that is purely to monitor the come-ins and go-ins of the house. It doesn't overlook the neighbouring properties. With regards to the reasoning behind this, it was following the recommendations from Kent Police for CCTV installation. The comments from Kent Police are set recommendations we receive with regards to care homes. They do advise in their recommendations that it may be required for staff to carry personal attack kits and cameras. It doesn't mean they have to. This would be a discussion that the applicant would need to have with Kent Police to determine whether that is a necessity for this individual care home. With regards to the amenity of that bedroom, completely understand the concerns with regards to the sizing. We have recommended a condition to restrict the resident numbers, which means staff would not be able to stay overnight. And that way, the 3 bedrooms that are proposed should be continually used as bedrooms. Thank you.
Okay, just before I go to the next member, as a point of clarification purely, thank you for those answers, but can I just check, there is proposed an informative, isn't there, for the Kent Police issues? Perhaps you just briefly explain.
Thank you, Vice Chair. So an informative will be added to the decision notice, which sets out the contact details for Kent Police. The applicant will be made aware to make contact with Kent Police to discuss their recommendations. Their recommendations are pretty common, so most of them are boundary treatments, which is approximately 1.8 metres in height. They do already have existing boundary treatments in the rear garden that are actually higher than that. It also discussed lockable gates, so the applicant will be made aware of that. CCTV cameras, which we've already covered. And then some of the other issues were lighting to parking areas and external windows and doors to meet these standards. So these are common, and they will be advised to contact Kent Police to make them discussions and propose any alterations they may need to. Thank you.
Thank you very much for all those answers. Now on my list I have Councillor Peake, Councillor Joy and Councillor Nestoroff. Have I missed anybody at the moment? Councillor Brake, I beg your pardon. We'll plough on and see how far we get. Councillor Peake.
Thank you. I do have mixed reaction to this. Can I just say I've worked for 5 years in a care home, so I agree with my colleague to the right. There are many care companies, I think, I just care about the money. Over the 5 years I worked for this company, it got worse. Activities got cancelled. Then they said they can no longer pay for them. Literally leaks in ceilings. and the manager and staff asked to paint the walls in their own time. So I am concerned, despite CQC inspections, about standards, but surely that's not part of planning. So I agree with the concerns, and I wish we could look into this further. But on the other hand, I also do bridle at some of these assumptions as a staff member who had people, and me personally, and other members of staff, of being accused of our people that were looking after antisocial behaviour, intrusion of CCTV, and excessive noise. Actually, in those circumstances I experienced, the ones that were being aggressive and really unpleasant were the people wagging their fingers. In my personal experience, doesn't mean it applies to this, the residential home I work in now, the CCTV coverage is so limited. So I will say I actually think it is a nonsense, most probably, this idea that the CCTV camera, they are limited in their capacity. So the idea they're going to spy, I think this is actually the world of fantasy, to be honest with you. The assumption that somebody who's in care is automatically going to be somebody carrying out antisocial behaviour, based on what? And also the assumption that there's going to be noise disturbance, based on what, apart from prejudice. So I would ask us to think about our own prejudice on this. But again, as I'm glad it's been clarified, none of this is relevant, is it? I wish we could, but it's not planning. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Peake. Councillor Joy.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I've had a look at the plan application. Obviously, having recently done the training and the understanding, I'm fully supportive of Councillor Halcroft-Scott concerns with regards to the well-being of the children. But looking at the thing, saying it's the area's more older residents, if you actually look at when we're looking at the first map, the big white area to the top on the first map is Robert Napier School, which obviously will say that the area's got lots of children will be going up and down them roads all through the day. Looking with regards to security and surveillance, Kent Police have recommended this, but it was ring doorbells. You don't get involved in other people putting ring doorbells up in their houses now. But we don't even know the reason for Kent Police recommending the CCTV, whether it's for the security of the residents or whether it's for the security of the wider local area and other residents. With regards to the parking, looking at the pictures they're supplied, one vehicle can park comfortably on the front, off-road parking. With a drop curb, you've potentially got a place for a second vehicle. Barnstable Road, from my knowledge, regular bus services run up and down that road, and I don't think that has changed. Yes, it's probably, as a council, we need to making sure our social work teams are on top of this from the word go. But as you said, is that the property is not going to have more residents in a period. Yes, you're going to have your changeover, so you're going to potentially go up to 7 people, but that's literally a 15-minute handover each time. So you're going to have 5 people. It's a 4-bedroom house. 4-bedroom house nowadays, probably going to have 6-7 residents. So I can't see any reason, apart from emotional reasons, why we wouldn't be looking to support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Joy. Councillor Nesteroff.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to reiterate the words of my colleague, Councillor Halcroft-Scott. This cottage industry that we are seeing more and more in Medway, it's made only for the profit of the companies that run it, and not for the benefit of the most vulnerable, our children in care. And a bit more point on the planning application. On page 37, it says that they'll be maintaining 2 staff at all times, with shift patterns between 8 and 8 in the evening, 8 in the morning, during the night. This would mean that they need to hire 6 people, so there will be at least 6 people, so there will be staff at all time. I don't think this would happen, because paying salaries to 6 people, it's not going to make any financial sense, while looking after only 3 children. In general, I think the cottage industry housing, it's broken, the whole system is broken, and we need some solution as a whole. I understand we're not going to get it here from this planning committee, but like Councillor Howcroft-Scott said, moving children away from the place that they are born into a totally new area that they've never been, it cannot be good for their health. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nestroff. Councillor Brake.
Thank you, Chair. Quite a predicament, really, with this one, because whilst the number of children that we're talking about seems to be quite small, the age range seems to be quite large. It's quite a large spread, I should say, really. And the recommendations by the police for really additional security almost throws a shadow of doubt over the viability of the application. It almost paints a picture of these children are going to be wayward, these children are going to be a problem, these children are going to create mayhem within the area. Therefore, it is important that you have this high level of security. Equally, there will be members of staff on duty for 24 hours of the day. In fact, that actually specifies there's no member of staff that will be actually sleeping on the site, but there will be people there to have safeguard over the children. And really, quite honestly, I find the supporting documents really paints a very black picture. So I think really the question I would ask is that, is there anything known about the background of the children that are likely to be coming to reside in this in this care home? I don't think it really matters whether they come from Medway, whether they come from out of Medway, outside of Kent, perhaps even the London area. But I think really we need to look at the circumstances, because these are children that are in need of care. That is very clear by the application. And as I say, I think the supporting documents really paints a very black picture. So I think it's important that we have an understanding of the young people that we're talking about. But as I say, these are young children, and every child needs to be looked after. That's our responsibility. We all have parental responsibility as councillors, whether these are young people that are born and live in Medway, or whether they come from outside. Even if they come from overseas, we are responsible. So it's important that we make sure that we do the job right. So just that question, please. Can we have a little bit more background as to the young people that are likely to be placed in this care home? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brake. I'm now going to go back to officers for anything that they wish to say to address the points which have been made in the last group of 4 members. I don't know whether our planning officers will be able to answer the question about the children, but I'll hand over to either of the officers. Thanks very much.
Chairman, thank you very much. Firstly, just want to clarify a point that Councillor Nestroff made in terms of the number of people on site. There are 2 carers, and they will be on the shift basis, so you won't have more than 2 carers at one time there, other than that period when there is a handover. In terms of the children, I can't, as Councillor Jones, the Vice Chairman, said, I can't answer that, because I could say maybe, having spoken to the applicants, who would be the first children in there, but then I wouldn't know who the second child or the third child or the fourth child or future children would be in there. But it's not a planning issue. Members, I think Councillor Peake put it very, very clearly, very, very succinctly here. Yes, we understand your concerns, and they are concerns that the the body that does the registration and does the checks will need to consider very carefully and will need to take forward through those checks. They're not planning considerations. I've not heard anything today or this evening which gives me any valid planning reasons why this application should be turned down. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Last call then. Any other member? Anybody who hasn't spoken yet? Yes, sorry, Councillor. I couldn't see whether you were indicating. My eyesight's obviously very bad. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, thank you.
Thank you. Well, from what I've been read with the CCTV, what I would like to say is that that means that the privacy of residents might be affected. So if residents feel the CCTV would interfere with their privacy, I think we have to look into that. If they also feel they are not safe, because if they've raised concern about safety, we also have to take that safety of the residents also into consideration, because other than that, they will also be discontent because they are within the local community and they should be a mutual, they should be able to live mutually. So if residents are also not very comfortable based upon privacy and then security, I think that also have to be looked into.
Thank you, Councillor Naga. My apologies. I genuinely couldn't see whether you were indicating or not. My apologies for that. Thank you. Councillor Howcroft-Scott, you wanted to come back.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I obviously need to listen to the planning issues, really. Councillor Brake, my trade union would say that the way you're using black is not a good analogy. You maybe want to use dim or, you know, rather than portraying that as a language thing. But, you know, I've had equality training recently, so that's why I'm saying that. But, you know, in transport ways, it's parking that's an issue. Children do need homes, and we can't label them, as Councillor Peake said, and I don't want to label them. But the reason why they will be in these residential care homes is that, you know, they are vulnerable. Well, I hate the word vulnerable, but they, you know, they can't live with their birth families. They haven't thrived in foster family, so they're creating a specialised home for them, and they do deserve to live somewhere. But from my perspective, you know, we've got children in Nottingham and Scotland and young people. I wish we could just have these establishments for Medway children, you know, so they don't. I went to 13 primary schools in the care system, and, you know, that's the reality of being a parcel. Crime, again, I mentioned that, and the CCTV, there's been a lot of discussion, but again, you know, conscious raising, Councillor Peake has wrote, you know, we don't want to label this. There is a little bit of a change to the character of the area, maybe, because it's not, you know, my worry is it takes a family home away, but then children in care deserve the best, and I'm not sure if making profit out of them is a good thing. But with a planning hat, we haven't got any objections, have we, really? So what I'm trying to say, David Harris, is I've listened. As hard as it is, I've listened.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Howcroft-Scott. Councillor Hammond-Deashy, thank you.
No, thank you for that. My one is just a question just to round off my thinking, and it is a emotive subject. I do concede to that. One of them is are we able to provide, have more reassurance and clarification in around the staffing of the care home, or will that fall outside? Because my issue would be, if you look at page, what is the page? Is it 37 when they're talking about a maximum of 2 members of staff is proposed. I don't think that's right wording, because you might need to up the staffing in relation to the needs of the young people. By stipulating only 2, you could find yourself very quickly in an unmanageable situation that could fall within the remits of planning. So could that be worded in a better way that reflects that staffing will be managed in accordance to the children in the care home, which would be a maximum of 3, but their needs are going to be factored in relation to the staffing?
Mr. Harris, Chief Planning Officer.
Yeah, Chairman, thank you very much. Just firstly, in relation to the CCTV that Councillor Anang raised, we understand the perception of overlooking. The applicants understand that perception and they wish to be neighbourly. And as Amy says, what they're looking for in terms of the CCTV is this Ringo doorbell. And I think Councillor Joy expressed it very well. That could happen on every single house in Medway. But what it enables them to do is to observe their area and not have that overlooking of neighbours, which other ways of providing CCTV would provide a greater perception of overlooking, even if it didn't cause it. So that Ringo doorbell, I think, is a sensible way forward. But they will discuss it further with police. In relation to your question, Councillor Hammondish, for the very reasons that you've expressed, we've not sought to condition that. The applicants have put forward two carers to be on site at any one time. Obviously, their discussions with Ofsted is that should be sufficient, and that's what they're proposing. But our conditions only limit the number of children to be at the premises, because there's 3 bedrooms, so we're just no more than three children. So that enables that if Ofsted, or whoever the register person body is, if they feel that there should be more, they can do that without coming back to planning.
Thank you for that. Any other member? Councillor Peake.
Yeah, I'll try to be quick. Following on with the concern raised there, when I worked in care, there were some people that we supported that were literally one-to-one, mainly because of their health. So, for instance, one person could have a seizure at any moment. We as staff were trained to do an effective life-saving procedure. So you need a one-to-one. So if you had 3 residents here that were one-to-one, you'd have to have an increase of staff. But I imagine, again, this is not a planning issue. Is there any way of expressing all our concerns that's been expressed in this meeting to the relevant people at all, please?
Officers wish to say any more on this?
Chairman, I think Councillor Peake has summed it up in that it's not a planning issue. You're quite right. Totally understand all the fears that residents, articulated very well by Councillor Stamp, and that members generally have regarding this issue outside of the planning process. I completely understand that. What I can do is pass those comments up to the relevant department in the council. I can't remember his surname, James Palmer. Yeah, pass those comments on to him and the relevant director to put forward to Ofsted. I think the other thing, if members want to speak to their MPs, because you might feel that there needs to be a change to the way these are legislated for. That's outside the planning process, though. Hopefully that's helpful.
Right, I haven't seen any other member. That doesn't mean to say that there wasn't any. Yes, Councillor. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that we are in a situation where, planning-wise, there is absolutely no objection whatsoever to this property being used for the purpose for young people. I believe that every person deserves a chance, whatever information may have been laid before us, which indicates a rather negative approach to these young people. And I don't think that that is our responsibility, not within planning anyway. And I think the comments that David Harris has made with regard to bringing this to the attention of the children's services is probably a good way forward. But I will be voting in favour of the planning application. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. For the benefit of those members who might not have been on planning before, there is a statement which I read out after the determination of every application of this nature about children's care homes, and after we have determined the application, again, I shall be reading that out because it relates to some of the comments on children's services and child-friendly Medway which have been made during the debate. Vice Chair?
I move the application is approved with conditions.
Is that seconded?
Second.
Yeah, there's conditions 1 to 3 and the informative. Is that okay, Councillor Bray? Yeah. Thank you very much. Can I see all those in favour?
That's 12.
All those against?
That's none.
Okay, well that application is approved then. I'm sorry, Councillor Etheridge, I should have asked for abstentions, and thank you very much for that. Abstentions, Councillor Etheridge, thanks.
2.
And Councillor Nesterov, thank you very much indeed. If we could just note the 2 abstentions. So, 2 Second Avenue, Gillingham, the application has been approved. I explain at this stage that where the committee approves planning permission for children's care homes, this approval relates only to planning terms, and that the permission for the children's care home to operate is granted by Ofsted. Thank you. I think at that point I can hand back to the Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item 7, request for a section 106 deed of variation for planning application MC 211694. Dave's going to speak on this report.
Chairman, thank you very much. Members, the report is pretty clear. The background here is that you approved an application for 68 dwellings at Cliff Woods, subject to a number of conditions, subject to the section 106, which is set out on page 42. The developer, Esquire Homes, has been working hard to clear the pre-commencement conditions and other conditions that were imposed. And in relation to the section 106, has been working to meet all the requirements there, which included the requirement for 25% affordable homes on site. They did what they should do. They've approached all the RPs, the registered providers in Medway. However, what we are finding at this moment in time is that registered providers are not currently bidding for small sites, primarily for financial reasons. There are a number of them struggling. That includes MHS as well. We've spoken to them. Those RPs are struggling due to increased costs at this moment in time, dealing with their existing stock, things like damp, mould, cladding, those sort of issues. So they're not bidding for Section 106 homes on small sites. They're still doing it on the larger sites where they can get 100 or so affordable units. But most of our sites coming forward are much smaller than that. So they've had no offers from any registered provider, and we know this. We've had that confirmed to us. However, one registered provider has confirmed that if they were to get grant funding, they will deliver the affordable homes on site in accordance with the planning permission and our policy on affordable homes. Now, grant funding is not available from Homes England for Section 106 affordable homes. They will grant fund affordable homes not delivered through Section 106, which therein causes us a wee bit of a problem, as that is the only way we as local planning authorities can guarantee affordable homes on site. In this instance, we have been provided, though, with a written offer and agreement between the registered provider and Esquire based on achieving grant funding. We have also now had confirmed that Homes England will grant fund the affordable homes based on their removal from the Section 106 by this deed of variation. So in this instance, members, we are recommending that you agree the deed of variation, which will therefore secure the delivery of much needed homes on this site and, importantly, much needed affordable homes on this site. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Any member? Councillor Peake.
Forgive me if I've been thick, but when I read this somewhere, I thought, what? So you want a condition to be imposed, there's no takers, you take it out, you then can award the contract, and that condition can then kick in. Isn't there something wrong with the process then? Isn't it upside down, cockeyed? I mean, sorry if I've misunderstood this, but thank you.
Chairman, no, I completely get the concern that you have against the process, and I have the same concerns, and I've raised them with Homes England. Homes England will only grant fund affordable homes which are outside of the Section 106 process or conditions process. They will only provide that grant funding where it's outside of that process. We, as local planning authority, want to guarantee that at least 25% of homes provided on site will be affordable homes. The only way we can guarantee that is through a Section 106 or conditions. So there is a clash there between the two. Now, at this moment in time, up until relatively recently, I should say, there wasn't necessarily a problem because RPs were taking Section 106 sites. At this moment in time, for financial reasons, RPs in North Kent, so it's not just Medway, in North Kent, and it's beginning to go all over Kent and the southeast and probably elsewhere as well, registered providers are not taking small sites, affordable homes, through Section 106s. So we're in a bit of a conundrum. Now, generally I'm looking at what options there are to resolve this problem. In relation to this site, though, we have an RP, a registered provider, who says they will take it. They've made a formal offer to the developer, which has been accepted, but that formal offer is only on the basis that they can get grant funding. As I said, they can only get grant funding if it's taken out of the Section 106. Homes England have said, in this instance, and there's been a number of other instances around the southeast in Kent and in Sussex, where because they recognise that there is this current problem, they have said that if there is a deed of variation to take the affordable homes out of the Section 106, they will grant fund it, and we have that in writing. So yes, it's bonkers, but it's a process we're going through, and it's the only way in this instance that I can see we can actually achieve what the planning permission is, which is get these much needed homes and get the much needed affordable homes which could serve that local community as well as the wider Medway. Get them on site, which is exactly what we want.
Right, thank you. Councillor Etheridge.
Thank you. If we grant this, so basically we're saying that the developer is going to take a portion of homes out of their buildable houses, and therefore reducing the amount of houses that they build overall for themselves. Does that in fact then reduce the number of houses within the so-called 25% going to the provider? And then secondly, on the recommendation, the planning committee agreed to negotiations around a cascade mechanism of alternatives should grant funding not be agreed or the registered provider still not be able to deliver 25% affordable homes on site. If the officers and the chair of this committee go through that process, will that information be coming back to at least the spokes on this committee, if not all of the committee, to be reviewed? And therefore, on that basis, depending on your answer, I may ask for a deferment on this.
Chairman, thank you very much. Two very, very, very good questions. In answer to the first question is that the developer, in this instance Esquire, will still build all of the homes and they will be tenure blind, as they would do normally in terms of, everything would be as they would do if it was delivered through a Section 106. So they still build all the homes, they still build them to the same external spec. I will still challenge you all to walk around that estate afterwards and spot which ones are affordable homes, because there are other estates, one around the corner from me in Elm Avenue, another one in Cliff Woods. I walk around there and it's very difficult to find which ones are affordable. So in answer to your question, if it gives an assurance, Councillor Etheridge, the developer still builds them all, and then once they're completed, they're passed to the register provider. In answer to your second question, I mean, first of all, now we've got the written assurance from the register provider and Homes England that they will get grant funding. I think that it significantly reduces the risk. But on the off chance that it does fall away and we have to go to the cascade, it will come back to this committee. It won't be dealt with under delegated powers. It will come back to this committee.
Sorry, Chair, can we ensure that's part of the recommendation then? Thank you.
Councillor Joy.
Thank you, Chair. So the way I'm reading this is, if we go back to 3.1, and it's got the list of everything under Section 106, everything else that's under that Section 106 will still be required, so that doesn't ever get removed. And the affordable housing side, we removed that, but we then got confirmation of the grant funding from Homes England. And if it doesn't then go through, because Moat pull out, that it will then go back for another planning committee. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other member? No? Okay, I'll move over to Vice Chair, Councillor Jones.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. To ensure I don't get into a muddle on this, which is entirely possible, on what basis is it coming back to the committee if we don't get the 25%? Can I just clarify that?
Chairman, Chairperson, thank you very much. Yes, the answer is that if they don't get grant funding, and if the RP pulls out as a result of that, i.e. they can't deliver the 25% on site, then the cascade, the alternatives, will come back to this committee.
Thank you very much. In that case, Chair, I move the recommendations 1.1 and 1.2 in the report, together with what the Chief Planning Officer has just said.
Thank you. Those for the report. Sorry, apologies. Is that seconded? Thank you. Right, those for.
That's 14, Chair.
Thank you. The report is therefore approved. Right, thank you, officers and members. That is now the end of tonight's Planning Committee meeting.
you.